Okay, there's two kinds of mounting, right?
Mhm.
There's the spray mount,
Mm-hmm. And there's a
which,
salon mount.
and then there's the salon mount, which involves
Yep.
a special adhesive paper that you put between your mounting surface and the back of your print that you want to mount. And so we're here in the photo print lab. And you can have help on how to do this, so you can print it out.
Can we pull this up? in
Bring your own
Photoshop?
paper
In Photoshop?
Yeah.
and bring your file that you can print out here. And there's certain settings that have to be done. I will be posting the instructions here. There's an instruction sheet right
Yeah,
here.
there's all kind of copies.
And you can go through, it's pretty easy. In fact, you can just do it like a recipe. Have you ever made pancakes from a recipe? James?
Hmm?
Ever made pancakes from a recipe?
No, I never made pancakes at all.
Anything from a recipe?
Yo, yeah.
Oh, okay, well then you can do this. You're qualified. Okay? But in this case, you don't have to read it, he's gonna show you.
Okay.
Because he does it 100 times a day, right?
100 times.
Yeah, okay. So you open it up in Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
You were trying to print it from a PDF, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah. Photoshop, this is a photo print lab.
I'm a
They
noob.
use Photoshop. A
Mm-hmm.
lot better photo printout controls in Photoshop.
You have an Adobe ID?
Yeah. It's such a pain in the ass.
Yeah, they require you guys to do that from now on.
I may have to add this down to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more difficult than just opening up your file and go print.
Very.
That's what I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah. mhm.
No, these
Well, then why do you
these are
need a
photo
demonstration
printers,
to do
so they
that, huh?
require some settings.
Yeah.
That's a better student idea
So-
each time now, or just?
So that means,
Each time.
we're not working in Photoshop, we're working in Illustrator. You may have saved it
That's not-
in PDF, but you've got to open it in Photoshop and convert it into that format. So it's a raster image that you're outputting, not a vector image. All print is,
Is this all like good to go?
Yeah, go ahead and press OK. It's just that one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
all printing is raster
All
output.
right, so Command P.
Even laser printer is
Let
raster.
me try the settings. All right, so Photoshop manages colors. So we're gonna click, yep, perfect. And then the printer profile, this is where you're gonna choose your paper. And right now we have luster. So we're gonna click right there on the luster side. And then we're going to rotate this to a horizontal. And then scroll down to the bottom. And we're gonna scale to fit it. Perfect. Then we're gonna go to the print settings. And we're gonna show details. And then layout. And then printer settings. Perfect. And then media type, we're gonna make that luster as well. So click right in there, photo paper, and then luster again.
Where's Lester? Oh,
Yep. And then click save. Alright, go ahead and hit print, you're good to go.
yeah, that's a process.
Yeah, I know. Once you do it more and more, it'll click. I know.
Well, it'll click many times.
Yeah.
And then this is the easy part. You just watch it go through the machine.
Pretty much.
Now, it's gonna come out with a border on it, of course.
Yeah.
And if
looks
the
like.
border's not perfectly around it and you wanna use it as a frame, then you'll wanna trim off that border.
Mm-hmm.
And then the mounting board can serve as a frame, or you can trim it down to the edge of the print in what we refer to as flush mounting.
Right.
If you wanna do flush mounting, you don't wanna trim the print off. You just trim off the excess of the print as you're trimming off the board that it's gonna be mounted on. So you wanna mount it first and then trim it down if you're flush mounting.
Correct.
Now, for the beginner, if you don't know which one you want, it would be best to trim it down if you can, and then mount it perfectly so that your mounting board will serve as a frame. And if you don't like it, then you can always trim it down to a flush mount.
That's right.
Yeah, so we'll have you do that. Then you'll have two skills you're practicing on: getting your mounting paper to perfectly match up with your print, and then getting that perfectly centered or placed on your mounting board. And then if you make a mistake, if it's really cockeyed, then just flush mount it. Just trim it off and flush mount
Yeah.
it and throw away the excess, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And for those of you who are doing this the first time, that's the best approach. You don't want any kind of the paper that you're gonna be using, you're gonna be putting, sandwich it in between this print that's coming out. And it's not like our laser printers, where it's really, really fast. This is high resolution, photographic quality on photo paper. And so if you have any flaws in there, it's gonna show up. This is why we have you in Illustrator when you output something for laser. Laser, we know laser is based on PostScript and it's vector, but it has to rasterize it into the little tiny dots of the laser printer. That's called raster image processing, where the file is ripped. And now let's take a look at this one here, and it's mighty fine. Look at that. It's got that nice little texture you got in there is the paper, and that nice little luster there gives a nice, not too much of a shine to get in the way of your image, but okay.
Oh, so what's gonna happen is the first step we're gonna do is we're gonna tack this tissue on here, so that way when we put it in the hot press, it'll make sure it stick together. So we're gonna tack this first, and then we're
The
gonna do
tacking
our
is to
cutting.
make sure it doesn't move or rotate when you're
Exactly,
trimming it. Right.
exactly. Yep, and we're just gonna do a small little circle.
2 points. 2 points prevent from rotating.
Yep. And to make sure to test it, to make sure it's okay. That's a little test, and that's perfect. Then we're gonna come over here. I'm gonna start cutting.
We're gonna trim it down so that basically we're making the,
And the way I like to see where it's gonna cut is you see this little shadow that reflects this little blue, and I usually go fast. Don't go slow because the edge will be jagged. So I go real fast.
and get out of his way.
There you go.
So you're trimming just a little bit of the print off just to make sure that a little bit of the white edge doesn't show.
Not at all.
Because if you gotta go back again and trim off that little tiny white edge, it will tear it.
Yep.
And then so you end up cutting off even more the second time, so, yeah.
And I'm gonna do just a little bit more on the top. So I see a little bit of that white.
Yep, I can see it right over here, yep.
There we go. So now you have your
So basically what you have now here is you've kind of temporarily flush mounted this adhesive paper, which is called, what do we call it?
Oh, tissue paper. Sorry.
Tissue paper.
Yep, so tissue
Yeah, that's what I use to blow my nose in, but okay, I call it adhesive paper, whatever.
paper.
And
All
so,
right.
first of all, we're gonna try to mount this so that it's evenly framed by this.
Perfect. And I'm gonna get our little bootleg ruler, which is one of these guys. Oh, this is better.
If you want your mounting board to frame the picture, then as he's gonna show here, you need to kind of mark this thing so that it's centered on there.
Yep. So first
Because
thing
you
we're
got
gonna
one
do.
shot at
Mhm.
getting this to adhese.
Yep, that's correct. So we're gonna create our frame so that way we can get this dead centered and everything. So first thing I'm gonna do is gonna put the picture right here on the top left corner. And this is our little ruler right here. We're just gonna find the center,
That's
There you
just a scrap trim.
a scrap piece of paper. And we're gonna use this pencil here to mark the edge of that board. And what's gonna happen is we're gonna take our strip, fold it towards that little line we made, unfold it again, keep the picture
And now
intact.
that's 1/2 the distance.
Yep. And we're going to unfold it. Now you see how that bend is dead center there? I'm gonna lightly mark that. That way I can see it. That's one line down. And this one, we're gonna make one right here as well. We're gonna do the same thing up there as we did up there.
So you're literally centering this vertically and horizontally.
Yep. Yep. Same thing here. Gonna bend that. And we're not gonna write it over there. We're actually going to center it right over here. Using this as my little measure. And I'm gonna make this one just a little bit longer. That way when we make those lines, they will intersect with each other. Next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab a T-square. I'm gonna move this pick out of the way for a second. T-square, I'm just gonna measure that. Because we're making sure all these lines line up with one another. I'm gonna make a nice line going all the way from top to bottom. And then same for this, we want this line to intersect with this line. So we're gonna, and don't expect perfection, you might screw up a couple of times. I was a student too.
It's a little diagonal.
Yep. Perfect. Now, our bounce and balance. I'm gonna put this back over here. I'm gonna put it right here in this corner, and we balance it right here. There you have it.
Why the diagonal line?
The diagonal line, I call that the bounce and balance. So this right here makes it,
That's perfectly vertical.
and then this line balances it here.
Okay, but why did you make the diagonal line here?
It makes it balance. So what happens is, this is gonna make it crooked, but this line is gonna straighten it. Which is a nice touch. And it makes it dead center.
Now this doesn't look so bad because you've got the top and bottom width of the frame
Mhm.
pretty close to the left and right one. But sometimes it's quite thin in the top or thin on the side, depending on the proportions. It's not unproportional and all that.
Mhm.
And sometimes I encourage people to move this thing up so that if you've got the space here at the bottom, where you have an equal distance all the way around, and then you have a little bit more on the bottom that way.
Right.
This one is so close it doesn't really matter now, and if you do it this way, then it's going to look a little funny down here, and you want it the same size at the bottom, maybe a little bit bigger.
Mhm. Yeah, everybody has their own way
And you
of
can,
doing it.
yeah, and you can always trim the bottom if it's a little bit bigger, but
Right.
you got it perfectly centered horizontally and vertically. It would be perfectly centered all the way around if it were completely in proportion to the mounting board.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, I mean, if you want it to be that way, you could calculate that and trim off your board
Yeah.
before you do this, and then you've got the same width all the way around.
Mhm.
But like you said, everyone does it differently because it depends on their preference and what they want
Right.
it to look
Right.
like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But, so now you're ready, you know where to get it oriented, and now you just gotta adhere that, sandwich it permanently onto the board.
Yep. Perfect. So this part is kind of a little bit of a challenge, but this is why you have your gloves. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lift this by a hair. I'm gonna keep my finger right there. I'm gonna tack this corner so it can be stuck. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. Just by a
Don't
hair.
bend the paper.
Just by a little bit. There you go. Like I said, this one is more of a challenge. There you go. Then I'm gonna go ahead and put this guy right inside here for 40 seconds.
These are always warm,
Yep.
except at the beginning of the day, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you pull it down till it
40
clicks,
seconds. Yep.
and you
Pull it all the way down.
got a clock right here in the wall.
Yep.
Now, if you're mounting on foam board, which is thicker,
Yes.
You don't pull it down and push it
Nope.
like that.
Nope,
You just
you
pull
don't
it down
put
and
no
make
pressure on
contact.
it.
You
Nope.
put just like 1 or 2
Just a
pounds of
slight
pressure,
little-
just a little bit to hold it even on there,
That's right.
so you don't end up crushing the board.
All right, we're ready to take this out. And we're gonna put this in the cold press. That way your board doesn't start warping. So the cold press is just for 1 minute. And if you're busy, you can keep that in there as long as you want, because
Yeah.
it's just cooling it down.
Okay.
And that's how it goes.
Cool.
But if it gets too cold, though,
That's a
you might have to.
process.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is a process. And everybody has their own way of doing it. But that's just my little urban way.
No, great. Total
See,
approval.
this got all the extra math stuff. I don't like that math stuff. That ain't me.
Extra math.
That's not my calling. I'm not math. Reading was my subject.
Yeah, very, very, very nice. This is the highly skilled part.
This is the attention to detail part right here.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
You know, you
But-
think it's a tough thing to be able to color inside the lines. It's really critical to erase on the lines.
And that's why I tell you to make them lines lightly. That's why I use the mechanical pencil. Because you lightly made it.
Cool.
Well, there you go, sir.
Thank you.
No problem.
And then you hold it up next to you and we take a selfie.